President Trump, on behalf of all the MAGA patriots in America, I want to thank you for the historic victory for life in the Supreme Court yesterday.
Yeah, you actually did. You heard that right. That's Representative Mary Miller, and she's thanking Donald Trump for having that victory for white life in the Supreme Court just the other day. As you saw, she was studying through her whole approach there, and that led to an explanation from her spokesperson that many people maybe will believe, but there's much more to it than that. First of all, here's that explanation. Miller's spokesperson, whose name is Isaiah Wartman, he told the Associated Press that the Illinois Republican misread her prepared speech and was supposed to declare the divisive court ruling a victory for the right to life. You can clearly see in the video, she's looking at her papers and looking at her speech, is what Wortman said. Who wrote the speech? Did she read it beforehand? Did she realize that she's supposed to say right to life and not white lives? Oh, by the way, did anybody tell the audience that cheered white life that maybe that was a misstep? Or were they cheering when she said white life? We'll get beyond all that because there's, although they have that explanation there, Mary Miller does have a track record with quoting and supporting white supremacists. Watch this.
If we win a few elections, we're still going to be losing unless we win the hearts and minds of our children. This is the battle. Hitler was right on one thing. He said, whoever has the youth has the future.
Hitler was right about one thing, says Mary Miller. Then Mary Miller says, white life victory. It's almost like they all make sense together. Now, of course, after that Hitler thing, she apologizes for anyone who was offended by it. Not for saying it, and also for not believing it, but for people being offended by it. That was her explanation there. That was on January 6th when they're trying to rile up a bunch of people to run to the Capitol and trying to overturn the United States of America. So, more, because we're talking about this opposition to women's rights, white lives. But there's this woman named Jane Elliott. And she's a diversity educator. She's known for doing her blue eyes, brown eyes experiment, which shows how people for racial lines may divide themselves and think the one is higher than another, but she did it with eye color, just to show how human nature is. She broke down the reasons why conservatives are so hell-bent on taking away women's rights. Listen.
Right now, white people are really frightened. If you don't understand the destruction of Planned Parenthood offices, and you don't understand the wall that we're going to build on the southern border of the United States, you haven't read the book, The Birth Dearth by Ben Wattenberg. Ben Wattenberg was a brilliant Jewish man who was a member of the American Enterprise Institute. And he wrote a book, the first paragraph of which says, the main problem confronting the United States today is there aren't enough white babies being born in this country. He was an advisor to presidents of the United States. He wrote the book in 1987.
Okay, pause right there, because she's got more. This guy was an advisor to presidents of the United States, and he's talking about white life, making sure that we preserve it. Where have I heard that talk before? Maybe this bigoted Representative Steve King, who's no longer in office. Remember this guy?
To the German people and to any population of people that is a declining population that isn't willing to have enough babies to reproduce themselves. And I've said to them, you cannot rebuild your civilization with somebody else's babies. You've got to keep your birth rate up, and that you need to teach your children your values. And in doing so, then you can grow your population and you can strengthen your culture, you can strengthen your way of life. That's a clear message that we need to get our birth rates up or Europe will be.
Okay, it's pretty clear. Jane Elliott is on to something here because obviously that longtime Republican there that many people followed thinks the same way. But she finished and she tied this whole thing together. Let's let her finish.
He says if we don't change this and change it rapidly, white people will lose their numerical majority in this country and this will no longer be a white man's land. Now, I'm not misrepresenting this. I'm telling you exactly, almost exactly what he says. He says there are three things we can do to solve this. Number one, we could pay women to have babies as they have been doing in Western European nations for years. Then he says, and these are his words, not mine, unfortunately, we would have to pay women of all colors to have babies, so we don't want to do that. He says the second thing we could do is increase the number of legal immigrants that are allowed into this country every year. Then once again, he says, unfortunately, the vast majority of those wanting to come to this country today are people of color, so we don't want to do that. The third thing he says, and white women had better pay attention to this, 60% of the fetuses that are aborted every year are white. If we could keep that 60% alive, that would solve our birth dearth.
That would solve our birth dearth if we can go ahead and keep 60% of those white babies alive. So we've got, we need more white victory, as Mary Miller said. We need more white babies, as we saw many Republican elected officials say, and pundits on any cable news network that's conservative say. And we're taking women's right to choose because we definitely don't want those immigrants to have babies or any other minorities to have babies. What we need is white women to have babies so we can preserve our dominance. It's all based in white supremacy, Jackson. It's almost like they've been telling us this for decades.
And well, the reality is that, unironically, white America's losing what was never theirs in the first place. But the problem, well, their problem in their eyes is the browning of America. The problem for them, it's out of control at this point. So in addition to whites having more babies, everybody else in every ethnic class will have more babies as well. In addition to, if they don't completely ban brown immigration into this country, then that's going to continue to brown the nation. On top of the fact that younger generations, whites routinely date outside of their race, which is the result of me being on this planet. So I have firsthand experience with that. On top of, white women and white men like people of other ethnicities, so it's like the problem is completely gone for them, and there's really nothing they can do about it. But all of these half-wit proposals that they're pushing forward and the collateral damage that's going to come from it, unfortunately, their excuse is just going to continue to be to persecute women and to say personal responsibility, basically, oh, well, you shouldn't be having sex at all. It's cool if men do it, but somehow, if they happen to have sex with a woman, they're not at fault either. So I don't know.
Yeah, the first wave was to separate everyone to make sure that their white women didn't have sex with other races, because we saw that didn't work out. So the more and more people begin to actually understand and meet each other, that's when more of these different babies will come along, which there definitely can't be. So now we have to force certain women to have certain kinds of babies. The progression just continues. It's just they think this is a progression positively towards their dominance. It continues on and on and on. Let's keep it real. It's pretty obvious. There's no sugarcoating. There's no hiding. There's no veils. It's out there in the open, and now they think they've just got it in hand.